What is the best skill one can possess right now? So, one could argue that we are still living in a world that is mostly regulated and controlled by humans. Increasingly, there might be other entities, such as maybe artificial intelligence, that at least the access to is, to this point, still controlled by humans. Maybe there are also governmental entities which consist out of humans, because actually the entities themselves don't really exist without the humans. These are things we made up, at least according to Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote in his book Homo Sapiens, and maybe also in the following book, which is kind of a similar book, but in regards to the future, I can't remember the name right now, also kind of talking about this. So in one of these two books, he mentions the following. A company, for example, is made up. A government is made up. They actually all don't exist. The only thing that exists is actually the physical representation thereof. There are laws, these are just books, and all of these things combined only exist because we have this shared knowledge about them, and we act as if they are existing. If I give you a piece of paper, and you accept this piece of paper, and you actually realize this piece of paper is actually controlled by a governmental entity, which kind of makes sure that this piece of paper is actually worth something, and then you also expect that this piece of paper will be worth something in the future, then we kind of can actually do things. But only because we all believe that this piece of paper is actually worth something. And it's not only that it is worth something, it is worth something because we believe it is worth something. So now, back to the skill. There might be many different aspects to this, and there also might be a lot of different perspectives one could have, and maybe also at different points in life one might have different perspectives on this. And maybe if this skill is the bottleneck for your current situation, then you might basically overproject how important this is. Sometimes you might think it's all about being healthy. Sometimes you might think it's all about having enough money, because then money doesn't act as a bottleneck. And often, money might be a bottleneck if you have too little of it. Often health might be a bottleneck, or you might believe health is the only bottleneck if you have too little of it. This is because there are a variety of variables, or there probably are a variety of variables that kind of act as bottlenecks. So if you have too little of all these different variables, then they make life very hard. Whereas if you have kind of a medium amount, or have an amount that is not acting as a bottleneck and therefore constraining you, then these might very soon not be seen as the most important thing. So keeping a lot of different biases, but also the bias I just mentioned, the one that maybe because I'm so bad at this, I just might project this as, I might just use this as a projection and just say this is the most important skill. But what if the most important skill right now you can still possess is communication? And it's mostly communication to humans. Because humans still control lots of what is out there. Then the next question would be, how would you develop communication skills? Now, there are lots of different things to this, and there are also lots of different benefits to this. If you want to do anything in this world still, there are usually people that have control. And if you then are nice to these people, or at least you are perceived nice, and then they might give you something in return for being nice, or they just might feel as if you actually value them. And of course there is also a manipulative side side to this. Because where is the line between you actually just kind of pretending to be nice, but actually not really caring? On the other side, maybe you are actually caring, but you just don't have the social skills to actually make the other person see that you are actually caring. So where is the line in between those two? Very difficult. So now, kind of back to me. For years now, I tried to write ideas down, and I try to also make videos about these ideas in kind of different formats. And the question I have been asking is always, what is the best thing? Should I write down my ideas and therefore improve my writing? Or should I maybe already write down my ideas and then turn them into videos by speaking them and then adding stock footage? Or should I maybe just try to turn my ideas into something that is directly recorded in the one format of communication that is kind of the most common format of communication, and also the one that I have the least control over, and the one that is kind of the most continuous. Let's say in 100 years there are things that are not like TikToks, or 100 years before there were things that were not like TikToks. But me standing in front of a camera is basically the closest to the human, to the experience of normal human communication, apart from the fact that this is just a monologue of me talking maybe for 2 minutes, maybe for 60 seconds, maybe for 15 seconds. But that's not the point. The point is that this is the closest to the normal human communication that it kind of can get. Apart from the fact that usually communication is bidirectional. Even if there sometimes is a very short latency and sometimes there is a very big latency, with latency being kind of the response time. So in a normal communication, if there is a response time, let's say up to 5 seconds, then everything above might be considered to be not being very normal anymore. Whereas if you have a WhatsApp chat, for example, or an email, then a response time of maybe 1 week, or in terms of WhatsApp, maybe 3 days, might be still considered within the norm, within what people usually have in terms of their latency or response time. So back to levers, back to bottlenecks. If therefore if you can basically progress a certain skill to a certain level that then brings you in comparison at least to other people within a domain where you don't have that much competition, then this allows you compared to other people to access basically a lot of different things. If there are 10 candidates for a job interview and you are the least qualified, but you might be in the best 10% in terms of communication, which I certainly am not, but let's just say compared to the version of me that is unskilled and also unskilled in communication, at least if I try to train it a bit, I might get better at this. So the comparison is not me and between somebody who is both, but in between me and the slightly worse version of me. And the question is also not which kind of skills I actually need, but the question in this regard is, with a certain unit of given time, what is the best overall improvement I can achieve with kind of the same time investment? So of course I could try to study physics for the next 10 years and then I would have a PhD in physics, maybe not, because I might not be capable of doing this. But if I just am maybe in the best 10%, or if I try to aim to be in the best 10% of people who can communicate, in maybe having the ability to listen to somebody, in maybe having the ability to ask the right questions at the right time, and maybe also the ability to put the things that are in my head into words, into the common thing we all share, which in this case is language. But not only language, but also the additional things that come with language. So it's not only writing down the actual code, the actual text, but it's also maybe putting them into a visual format, also using your eyes, also using your face in order to explain something. So then back to the question, should I write or should I speak? Now, I have been iterating back and forth between these main two different formats for a very long time now. And there are advantages to both sides, or to both sides of the medal. If I write, then I can attach links, I can attach images, but it also takes a lot of time. And also if I attach a video, for example, I might be sucked into YouTube because I just searched up this video on YouTube and then I just happen to watch 5 seconds of it because I need to watch 5 seconds of it because otherwise I cannot link the specific thing here. And then if this becomes part of a habit and then the next time I watch like also 10 seconds of it, then over time this might skew me into a direction I did not actually want to go in. If on the other hand I just stand in front of a camera and the only thing I can do is explain things, then if I am very bad at explaining things and nobody listens to me, then this might not result in any results, basically, which is the basic problem. In addition, in the last months and years, I've iterated back and forth between doing thumbnails on YouTube, for example, or also just not doing thumbnails, just uploading the video itself, and maybe it's me talking for 2 hours and maybe it's me talking for 5 minutes. And the beauty of this is that if I constrain the format to its bare minimum, to just me talking in front of the camera, and if I pronounce words not good, then it's obvious that this video isn't good. But if I basically derive myself of any option to improve this apart from improving myself, then apart from basically coming up with better ideas or improving my ability to turn these ideas into something that is worth watching, then the only two variables I have is either improving me or improving basically my ability to turn this into something that is watchable. Of course I can change maybe over time the camera. I'm currently using a phone, and also a microphone. But I guess there is not that much improvement to be made. I'm currently using kind of the room mic, and I'm not wearing a mic because then I can kind of move around a little bit more. There is this bigger idea behind this. And this bigger idea is that if I just become better at speaking, and there might be a different part to this, at least not only the speaking part, but also the communication part. And for this reason, I also figured I might introduce maybe podcasting in the future, but I'm not sure to which extent I wanna be dependent on other people's time schedules, because currently I am not so much, and I have kind of designed my life, or at least tried to design my life in a way that I am not very dependent on other people's schedules. I recently talked with a friend of mine, and he mentioned that he wanted to begin kind of creative writing because John Peterson mentioned this. And the thing I saw is that I also began kind of creative writing, but instead of framing this as creative writing, I found much more use in finding a function within this. So instead of saying, okay, I want to write something creative, let's create actually something that is functional, either for me or also for somebody else. And so I began to take notes of basically my personal life, but not just random notes and just trying to write down what bothered me, but trying to find solutions. So having a function behind it. And similar maybe is this here. This format maybe on different channels, but the goal is always to kind of provide value. And even if the value is only for maybe my future self, even if the value is only to provide value for myself by improving my speaking ability, or by actually creating a point in time, basically a timestamp, and basically timestamp my ability and record it. Because I can think that I might speak well or unwell, but if I don't have the actual data to prove it, and then I also have maybe the timestamp of the video, and I also have a certain topic of the video, then this just creates evidence. And if I then in the future am better, maybe, then I can compare myself back to this, and I can acknowledge the improvement. And if I didn't improve, then I can look back and say, okay, well, maybe I should improve. So after all, maybe I should speak more and I should write less. Yesterday, for example, I wrote an article for an hour. And there is also something else maybe with speaking. It's that I have to connect my face to this. At least in the current format. I also tried drawing down things on my phone and also on my notebook and recording them. But if I have to record my face with it, then there is, I think, a greater accountability, because it's me speaking directly with my face. I cannot just say random things and then everybody can see that I said these things. So I have to have a bigger framing in mind. I cannot just say random things. I have to kind of say things that I at least am, to some extent, comfortable with sharing or talking about. And now this is also maybe a big risk, because if in the future I might develop into a different direction, or I might think about certain topics differently, then having this past evidence also posted online, maybe I can also private these videos again. But if it has been posted, then of course it might be out there still. And having these videos with past historic views or thinking that I then no longer think is up to the current thinking, then this might be disadvantageous for me.